Welcome to the Regular Guy Firearms channel. That means no biases, no sponsors. Hey! No ego. Fuck your couch! Here we're gonna separate the strong from the weak.
Get some.
And if you dislike the fact that we're bashing your firearm because you bought it and you invested your ego into it, click away. Clumsiest trigger ever. What up, guys? And we're going over the MSAR STG-556. Basically, these guys created a Styrog clone. Now, Ratworks backed these guys, and they have since gone out of business. But basically, this is a Styrog clone, and this is the one that uses Styrog style magazines. So let's go over this really quickly, because I am certain that a bullpup guru somewhere is going to try to rip me apart on this video. Okay, first and foremost, I am not above saying that I am not a fucking bullpup expert, okay? The vast majority of my weapons knowledge and experience comes from U.S. military weapon systems, okay? That's where the vast majority of my knowledge is at. And unlike a lot of internet Yodas and armchair experts out there, I'm the first to tell you, I don't fucking know everything. So if I mispronounce something in bullpup lore or something to that regard, that's fine. You can be pissed off about it, but I'm doing the damn review, and I'm putting the money down to drop 1,000 rounds on this rifle. So with that being said, here we go. Now, I'm approaching this under a certain format. The first and foremost being its design and controls and how they outfit the user, meaning, are they fluid enough to run efficiently? Okay. The second thing that I'm really going to handle as well is the real world applications. What would I primarily use this for? And this is looking at this from a martial context, because the real world application for recreation is recreation. Nothing really matters, because reliability and all that crap aside, it's worthless, because if you're shooting it for recreation, that's all you, man. We're going to do the field strip and parts maintainability as well as customizations all kind of rolled up into one, because they all just kind of intertwine with each other. And then we're going to do the staples to any weapons review for me personally and from a martial context, and that's, is it accurate and is it reliable? Accurate doesn't, to me, means combat reliability, meaning I need to hit a dude at 400 at this instead of cloverleafing at 100 yards like a lot of the bench guys like to shoot with. So basically, with that being said, here we go. Now, this is a bullpup style gun, and for those of you that are not in the loop, bullpup style guns run the action and the ejection port, meaning the moving parts and bolt assembly as well as your magazine is all behind your gun hand. Now, that alters a couple of things, and we'll go over that here in a minute, but we're just going to do a quick little rundown on the gun first. So we'll see how that shakes. Your bolt lockup is, there's two methodologies to it. or two ways that it can happen. The first one is manually. It's very MP5-like, to where you can just run the bolt and lock it to the rear this way. Or, on the last shot fired, this locks to the rear. And, well, this is your release, but the bolt locks to the rear. And of course, like I just said, if you load a new magazine and want to drop the bolt, just press the top portion of this. This is not a bolt lock. Okay. I thought it was when I first started effing with this gun, but it's actually not. What's kind of funny is that when I'm taking apart the weapon system and I'm trying to remove the trigger pack, because that just slides in and out, it's not held in by pins, I fought it forever to get out of there, and then I realized once I just pressed this, it fell out of there. So I'm guessing that's holding down some kind of detent or something. Somebody tell me in the comments, because unless that is the intended purpose, I really don't know what the fuck this is for. So, there you go with that. Your safety, I really don't know why I just put this down. Your safety is a standard cross bolt type, a lot like the older shotguns, and you can put the gun on safe or on fire, whether or not the bolt and hammer is to the rear or anything like that. And that's unlike AR style guns, because for those, the hammer or the trigger kit basically has to be charged, meaning the hammer's to the rear and all of that good jazz before you can actually actuate the safety to the safe position. So that, in my personal opinion, is a plus, because I like being able to put the gun on safe all the time anyway. It's just it's a warm and fuzzy for me, you know. Up front, you have a broom handle. I mean, it works fine. It's not that big of a deal. In order to fold it up, in case you want to reduce your real estate, or throw this on a log or something, because touching your barrel on things reduces your accuracy, because it messes with your barrel harmonics and all that good jazz. So that's something to be noted about it. The next is your gas block is adjustable. You have a standard and a adverse settings position on this. It flips rather readily, but what you don't want to do is touch this once you've fired a few magazines through it. I mean, it might seem like common sense, but I do have to note to those that are not in the loop, this is pretty close to the gas port on the barrel, and this bitch gets really hot. Matter of fact, it throws fireballs up when you start shooting the thing a lot, and I'll show you that here in a second. So yeah, it kind of gets hot. So basically, if you don't broom handle this thing and kind of force yourself to shoot this thing as it was designed, you're going to run into problems, because it's just going to get hot as hell, and it becomes a little more difficult to mess with. Next thing we're going to go to is the trigger here, and I kind of hate it, because, again, like most bullpups, actually, there's a lot of linkagey junk that that pretty much runs to the back here, because your hammer kit and everything else is back here, and that's what's actually smacking on your firing pin, igniting the round and starting the firing cycle and all that good jazz. So because your trigger's all the way the hell up here, it's got to get all that linkagey crap towards the rear, and it just makes for a friggin' terrible trigger, in my personal opinion. It's actually pretty hard to fire effectively. And if you listen, that is I hope you heard it, because it's a very faint trigger reset. It's actually hard to feel, comparatively speaking, to other weapon systems out there. So, I mean, the way that I would compare this to most weapon systems out there is I would compare this to, like, the New York Police Department's Glock triggers, okay, because they're insanely heavy for what they should be. They're really spongy, and the break and reset are kind of awful, because it's very difficult to predict either or. Now, I might just be a bullpup noob or whatever, but coming off of other weapon systems, this was really difficult to shoot well with. The next thing that I'm going to go over here is a magazine release. My personal opinion, kind of counterintuitive, because unlike, again, what I'm used to, having to come up under your magazine, push that button down, and then pull the magazine out of there, because from what I noticed, they don't always drop free, even though Ratworks will tell you that they're drop free. They don't always drop free, so having to strip a magazine out while pushing on a lever up is kind of counterintuitive to me. And yes, it's a training issue, but it's difficult to get used to. And the point of combat, quote-unquote, style weapon systems is to try to be as retard-proof as possible. So running into the difficulties and all that aside, it can still be done. It can still be done fairly easily. Your ejection port has no brass deflector of any kind. So shooting left-handed, and yes, I'm a lefty, shooting left-handed on this thing is a no-go. You see me shoot right-handed on it already, and personally, I think you should train with both, even though, unless you're shot, the propensity of you changing hands in combat is very, 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 very minimal, near non-existent. But being able to train with both is still a really good idea, just in case, because people get shot. It happens. That would be nice to do. And yeah, there's brass deflectors and stuff out there, but inherently that's a design flaw of, or the challenge to a lot of bullpup style guns. Something else that this thing does have, and I'm not going too deep into this because there's already a freaking disassembly video that I put out, is that you can pull off the barrel on this thing and switch it out for another one that's either a longer or a shorter length. So, focusing, all you really have to do is push down on that, lock your action to the rear first, and then all you really have to do is just kind of push down, twist, and the thing comes off, comes back on. I noticed that it was kind of neat that there was some fluting involved in that barrel, and I was actually intrigued because it didn't really affect accuracy at all. And when you install this barrel, unlike a lot of weapon systems out there with quick detached barrels and stuff like that, it returns to 0. So I was really impressed. Overall, as far as controls, the gun's kind of clunky. It's kind of clumsy and it's kind of slow. Can you get over a lot of that? Yes. Where is it the most annoying? In 2 areas it is. One is the reload or malfunction deal, because there's 2 different types of bolt lockups on this thing, and I really just stopped using the bolt release because the difference between dealing with a malfunction or loading up that first round and just dropping the bolt was just annoying as hell to me, so I just reverted to the charging handle. There are versions of this gun out there that take AR magazines and that bolt release is taken away. I personally would not give a crap about that in the first place, because after I first started using this thing, I just went over to the charging handle. It makes far more sense to me to just run that all the time, because you can work the gun all the time for any reason with the charging handle, and you can't with the bolt release. So there's all of that. Another gray area or problem area is in the prone. And it's not where everyone is talking about for me, because reloads in the prone are always slow. Okay, because the biggest challenge is getting to the magazine pouch. Where it's a problem for me is that on conventional type weapon systems like the M4 and whatnot, I'll actually put my magazine into the dirt and use that in the human/gun tripod, okay, where the magazine's a little monopod and your elbows are the other 2 legs. And for guys that are going to tell me that that causes malfunctions, that just means that you carry bad magazines all the time, because your shit is supposed to work whether or not you place that little box on the ground. So get over yourselves. where it's a problem with me on this type of weapon system is that I'm pretty much forced to a prone unsupported position all the time. Is it that big of a deal? Not really. But is it a little annoying? Yes. So, can you get over it? Absolutely. But is it slower? Yes. The whole weapon system is just a tad slower, and the trigger is terrible. So, you need to have a really firm grasp of your fundamentals. You got to concentrate when you shoot this thing, but it can be done. Oh, and by the way, you will shoot a little bit slower with this because your little trigger finger, just like mine, is going to start getting tired when you try to shoot fast with a much heavier, longer trigger than this is. Field strip and all that crap. Guys, there is a 15-part field strip to this gun, meaning 15 parts in the field strip. Now, when you relate that to the AR-15, the direct impingement type AR-15, okay, the standard, or a SCAR, or an AK-47, it's not 15 parts, okay? This is a lot more parts for a disassembly. And it's not even like that really matters. It's not even like it's rocket science. The problem is that that's more stuff that is critical to the operation of a weapon system that can break, or that can be lost, or that has to be replenished when it starts wearing out. It's more shit you have to monitor. It's kind of annoying, in my personal opinion. But then again, this is one of the first fielded examples of a bullpup anyway. So, I mean, I would understand why there's more parts to it. But coming from the conventional weapon side of the house, the field strip is a little annoying in its number of parts. Okay. However, cleaning the thing is pretty easy, as it is a short stroke piston system, and the piston in the piston is removable fairly readily and easily. So even though there's more parts to it, maintaining it's a piece of cake. Customization is obviously there's less availability for this. Guys like Suarez Tactical make a great product and will assist you in finding the shit that you need for this gun. But there's fewer of it, and there's a lot of gimmicky stuff out there, so buyer beware, dude. But I'm not going to beat that dead horse. The accuracy. The machine is capable of doing more than I put out. I mean, shooting right-handed is obviously not my strongest suit because I'm a lefty, but I was able to print 3-inch groups like you'll see. So we're at the 100-yard line, and that is the 4-shot group from the AUG. Not bad, seeing as I'm left-handed, not right-handed, and it's not too terribly bad. So it can be done pretty readily as well. Now, the reliability portion of it, here's a weird portion of this, because I did run into a bunch of malfunctions. And I started looking around for the reasons why, and there's 2 parts to this. One, Ratworks had a lot of issues when producing this gun. There are several versions of the same weapon system out there, and conventional wisdom would make you assume that if you produce several versions of the same weapon system without making serious design changes, it pretty much means that you've designed your weapon with a lot of flaws and reliability issues. You know, I mean, the weapons upgrades that this thing went through were not that of the SR-15 from Knight's Armament over the standard AR. It was beefed up bolt components and stuff like that because the guns were malfunctioning a lot. I thought I was running into that case when I started getting malfunctions with it, and yes, I did. But the second half to this is that the Styrog type magazines that are running around for this gun. Apparently some are real gems, apparently some really suck. So you really have to evaluate which magazines you got. Here's the meltdown drill that I did with it. I do this with all of my 1,000 round tests, which the 1,000 round test is in all of my reviews. Basically, you'll see what the issue is.
So little. Is that?
For the record, that mag sucks.
Running it right-handed. One ammo? What's up? How about right-handed? Good.
Now it's better.
How about left-handed?
No.
Mag. Up 10.
Now it's reliable. It's fucking exhausting. That's so frustrating.
I know, but it can be choked. Yeah.
I think the gun might be getting a little too hot.
The green breakthrough bag.
Well, it was running pretty good until then.
Alright, so you can see that got a little frustrating with me because I did encounter a bunch of malfunctions, and you even heard me say it was running great until now. Once the gun started getting hot and once it started running extended strings of fire on it instead of just doing a lot of different drills and whatnot in the same type of format, when it started shooting for extended periods, I had two specific magazines that were consistently fucking up on me. And one was that 45 round magazine, and obviously the other one was a 30 rounder. Now, eliminating those two magazines from the equation, the gun ran flawless. So I'm going to have to go ahead and say that the machine works, but you really have to test your magazines to make sure whether or not they're quote-unquote combat ready. So that's pretty much what I think about this weapon system. So, final thoughts. Now, the bottom line, to me, this is the, and if you guys pay attention to the channel, you'll understand this reference a little bit more. This is my Beretta M9 in the rifle world, okay? Because I absolutely hate the design, personally. I really do, but I can't bitch about it because the gun works and it'll print accurately. So, not my cup of tea, in other words. But if someone handed me one and there's nothing else lying around, I couldn't really complain because I know that the weapon system's going to run. Contrary to what a lot of people say about this particular weapon system, and with good reason, because Ratworks was fucking up. That might be the reason why they're out of business. So, with that being said, guys, remember, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny, and take it easy.
Mag. Up 10.
Now it's reliable.